taking a look here at the Focus Jarifa 27R Impulse 3. It's a mouthful, but this bike really delivers. It's sort of the entry point for the Focus off-road lineup, and I love that it's actually available. All the frame sizes are kind of this like stepped down high step diamond frame, but it's available in like I think 4 sizes. There's like extra small, small, medium, large, so you can really dial in the fit. This is a smaller frame that we're looking at here. It's a size small, and it feels pretty good. You know, you've got the standard quick release seat post. It's a little bit more of an aggressive low rise handlebar. They're wide. They've got these locking grips, pretty standard with the flat for off-road riding. It's not ergonomic, and for me, I guess I kind of like a little bit more of an upright ride. I've got like a sore neck, sore back thing. So I love that it's got a suspension fork, but also the smaller frame size for me feels like I can control it. So that's a welcome feature for this review. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into some of the specs. I wanted to start by calling out these pedals because even though they're plastic, they've got these really nice little grippy nubs and they feel good. There's great surface area. You know, if you're riding off-road a lot, you might replace them right away with your own, and that's cool, but they didn't really skimp on that, which is nice. We've got a RockShox Air suspension fork XC23 with lockout right here, and it's remote lockout, so you can adjust that on the fly while you're riding. Just kind of a nice extra little feature there. We've got hydraulic disc brakes with these Shimano levers right here, and 180 millimeter rotor in the front and 160 millimeter in the rear. And you might notice that both have quick release, and that's one of the huge benefits of a mid-drive electric bike like this, and that's going to make changing flats or truing the wheel or even replacing a tire while you're on the trail much more possible. You're not going to have to bring all those tools and stuff, and it's going to be, I think, easier for shops to work with, less intimidating, because all the electric drive stuff is right there in the center, and the rest of the bike is just kind of a normal bicycle, but high quality too. So while we're on that subject, you'll notice that just having that weight in the center of the bike like this helps to keep it balanced. It keeps your center of gravity low, and you know, when you're riding on trails and maybe even taking some jumps or climbing and stuff, that's ideal. That's really what you'd want. And so that's cool. And there's more and more bikes that are having this kind of mid-drive design, but I love that this one is actually sort of surrounded by the downtube right there. If you can kind of see that, that's really cool. It just gives you an extra level of protection. But the motor itself, this is still pretty sturdy casing, and a lot of the other Focus bikes that are more for around town or touring, they just put that right as the bottom bracket. They don't have that extra protection. So that really stood out to me. I'm gonna try to get back to the bike specs. Got a tapered head tube right there. We've got some stacks, the Focus stacks right there. Short little stem, and you could kind of dial all of this in for the best fit for your body type if you wanted. I mentioned the brake levers. They don't have motor inhibitors, and so one thing I've noticed is because the way the pedal assist works on this is it senses the speed of the wheel, the rotation speed of your cranks, and also your torque, like how hard you're pushing. There are times where I was holding the brake and I was at like a stop point, and then I pushed down on the pedal and the motor was like, should I go? And it was kind of like going because the lack of motor cutoff inhibitors. It's not a huge issue. It's just something I want to call out. I'm trying to be like really thorough with this bike. And the other thing that I noticed is there's no water bottle cage here, which, again, all that space is taken by that mid-tube battery or down-tube battery. And there's no like fender mounting points for this bike, and there's no seat stay braze-ons or extra threaded eyelets at the rear. So you really couldn't add fenders or rear rack on this bike very easily. And that's kind of a mixed thing with me, because being that this is their like entry level off-road bike, I actually like to use bikes like this for commuting, and this has a 27.5 wheel, so it's like a step up from 26, step down from 29. This is like my favorite wheel size because you get a little bit of a smoother ride, higher attack angle, and some efficiency, some rolling momentum, but it's not as big and unwieldy as a 29er, for me at least, because I'm not a huge guy. I'm like 5'9". So for me, like if I was buying this bike, I would think about like, oh, maybe I want to use it for getting around town with the occasional like trail like this, for my commute. But in order to do that really effectively, I would put a rack on it. So a good fallback solution is to put like a beam rack that just connects to the seat post and hangs out over the rear. And then that's fine. And it almost acts like a little fender, but I wanted to call that out as a possible area of improvement. And it comes back to how you use this. So that came to mind. These are Continental X King 2.2, I guess, and 27.5. That's the 650B wheel size. 27.5 by 2.2 inch. So you can see they're a little bit wider and knobby, as you would expect for off-road riding. Pretty cool. And the cassette over here is Shimano SLX. So really good component set. Again, this is the entry price point, but it's still an expensive bike. This is like $38.99, so we're getting closer to that $4,000 mark. But as far as mid-drives go, I think the cheapest Bosch system I've seen for 2014 is like $4,000 plus. So this is a step down in price from those, and I don't think those have bosses or anything either. And actually, maybe, let's see, I guess there is like a threaded hole there. Maybe it's possible to put something on the back. I want to be fair. I love that they've got this chain ring up front with a little bit of a guide, kind of a plastic guide to keep the chain on track, and maybe even to clear some mud or something, depending on how you're riding this. And then this is like an aluminum alloy bash guard. And so, again, keeps the chain on track, and it protects the teeth a little bit and just makes this a little bit more burly, which is welcome for an off-road machine. You'll notice that the front chain ring is a little bit larger than like the Bosch system, which is smaller. And it's just kind of a different style. This is a slower rotating than the Bosch system. So maybe a little bit quieter. The Bosch is like, it kind of spins faster. Depending on the gear that you're in with this is going to spin differently. So the battery pack right here, it's 36 volt, 17 amp hours. I mean, that's just enormous. And depending on the terrain you're on, it could actually, you could get like 80 plus, maybe even 100 miles, like for real, if you're actually like on road and you're using a lower level of assist and you're pedaling the whole time, because this doesn't have a throttle. It's only pedal assist type of bike. So that's one of the big advantages. You're using this bike more like a bicycle. It's not a scooter, and as such, you're going to get that better range. I just pulled this plug out, by the way. This is the Energy Bus standard. It's magnetic. Look at that. So when you plug it in to charge it, that's where you do that. And I'm going to show the charger here. I've weighed that. It's about 1.5 pounds. So real easy to bring along with you if you do plan on going super, super long distance riding. And this is the charger. You can see it's got like a bit of wire here. You plug into a standard wall outlet, and then the other end of it that plugs right into the battery pack. And it's got that Energy Bus sort of magnetic connecting piece. And then the main part of the unit, it's relatively quiet. Looks like output is 42 volts, 3 amps. And I weighed it. It's about 1.5 pounds, so you could always toss this in your backpack and top it off at work, top it off at a friend's house. It's a lot lighter than trying to bring an additional battery with you. So pretty cool. The motor here is a 250 watt geared center drive. It's an Impulse 2, and it's been working pretty well for me. As mentioned a minute ago, it's all kinds of sensors going on. It's pretty responsive, a little slower to cut off, but maybe a little quieter too. And again, a little bit more affordable than some of the other options out there. So it's a really cool setup all around, and I like the colors and stuff that they chose. It's like kind of professional, but it's still cool. You've got that like bright green. So operating this bike is pretty simple, and I should call out that it's got like a little LED indicator built right onto the battery, so you can see even whether it's on or off the bike, which by the way, you can charge it off the bike. You can see how full it is. I recommend storing it like, maybe 1 dot below full and 1 dot above empty, somewhere in that middle range. That's going to be the most balanced level. It's going to help prolong the life of this battery. Keep it in like a cool, dry place. If you haven't used the bike for a few months, top it off, that kind of thing, just to help extend the life. But these lithium-ion batteries, they last a long time, 1,000 plus charge cycles, and they've got a good warranty. This is like a legitimate company that makes these bikes, and so you're going to have good support that way. This is the display up here. So I guess I mentioned the brake levers. Here's the trigger shifters, which is nice. There's no like twist shifters going on. That's not going to compromise your grip at all. But then there's the display, and this is kind of the mini, like the smaller display. It's not removable, but it can swivel forward and backwards, so that can help reduce the glare if it's a sunny day like today. which is always nice. To activate the system, you just press this power button over here, and it comes on. It says hello. There we go. So it's kind of a monochrome display. It's backlit all the time, so that's going to be nice for night riding and stuff. And it's very simple. It's like not a whole lot of overwhelming information going on here. You've got your speed set to miles per hour, but you could change it to kilometers per hour by holding set for a few seconds. Got your battery capacity here, which has a lot of little levels. It's like more increments, which to me is more precise, so I can tell how quickly the battery's draining. It's not just like 3 simple dots. And then, of course, we've got our assist levels, which can be changed with the plus and minus. It's in power right now, but I could arrow down to, like, you know, sport, eco. Eco's gonna get the best range, of course, and help you reach those long distances. Or you can arrow down to, like, none. And then this bike just performs like a regular bicycle. You can pedal it backwards, you pedal it forwards, you know, use the cassette, the gears, just like you'd expect. And then with this set button, you can also change between the odometer and the trip distance. And to reset the trip distance, you hold minus. So that's something I learned. Kind of nice to see how far you're going each day. So I just reset it. Before we get on this thing and take it for a test ride, I wanted to weigh it just to give you some idea. Again, this is the small frame, so maybe it's a little bit lighter, but most of the weight's going to be in that battery pack, which is about 6.5 pounds, and the motor right there. Having an air shock is going to help keep it a little bit lighter. Should be pretty cool. 47.5 pounds, so we're under that 50-pound mark. That's pretty good, especially considering the size of the battery. A lot of these bikes, you know, they come with like a 36-volt, 11 amp hour pack. That's the Bosch power pack, in fact. This one, instead of 11 amp hours, you get 17. And instead of a 350 watt motor, you get a 250. But in my experience, it's actually very capable. I haven't really found hills that are stopping me. So, you know, I don't know. I haven't done like a deep comparison of like torque and all that, but it's effective. You know, this is a cool bike. It's a good option. Go ahead and just hop on it, ride around a little bit. So I'm going to arrow up to power, get the most power out of this thing. And it does have shift sensing technology, which is really cool. They actually measure like the cable, which is routed right through that down tube. They measure like the cable movement, and that cuts power to the motor, which is going to help to, you know, reduce wear and strain on your chain and your cassette. So that's really thoughtfully designed. It's not like a low-end system at all. I'm gonna go ahead and do some shifting maybe while we ride. There we go. Woo! Top speed on this thing is 20 miles per hour. This does have a feature called Climb Assist, which has a more advanced sort of sensor group that can be dialed in to be more sensitive or less sensitive, and basically reduce the need for you to push as hard. So it's just more sensitive. It's something a dealer can set up on this bike because it has the more basic display. It's something that you can adjust yourself on some of the higher end models. So I'm on road now and I'm going to climb a little bit, and you can just kind of watch and see how responsive this is. It has no problem climbing hills, and it's going to be hard for you to tell from that angle, but you know, just give you some more footage. Crossover. Cool. see it cuts out pretty quickly after I stop pedaling. That's how responsive it is, because if you come up to like the edge of a cliff, you're riding this bike and you're like, oh, I want to stop, you want the motor to not take you off that cliff. And with all of the sensing and things that are going on, I feel like it does a pretty good job of that. But again, it doesn't have like the brake lever motor inhibitors. So that's just something, you know, again, if I'm squeezing this brake and then I push down, you can see the motor is trying to make the bike go. It's not like a huge problem. It's something you kind of get used to. And it allows them to put on better brakes, I think, than some of the Tektro stuff that's maybe not quite as rugged as these Shimano hydraulics, but something to just kind of keep in mind. Well, that is the Focus Jarifa 27R Impulse 3. For the full write-up on this with specs and other Focus reviews, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com.